So, welcome everyone. Appreciate your attending this presentation. I always like to ask who, or at least describe who will benefit from this presentation. Managers who have previously struggled at promoting FP&A, financial planning and analysis, enterprise performance management, and integrating business analytics and business into their decision support systems. But also managers who intend to champion any or all APM and business analytics improvement techniques and need a compelling call to action. And the reason I put champion in quotes is just it's been my experience that although it's really good to have executive sponsorship to drive, initiatives and change, too often they're just either preoccupied with firefighting at the top or sometimes office politics, and it's really been middle management champions, people with sort of fire in the belly, a passion for change, who basically say, gee, how long do we want to perpetuate making decisions and using the type of information we have going forward? So this is really pretty much for those champions. I always like to start with this cartoon because I think it's going to set the stage for this entire presentation. Drowning in data, but starving for information. You have this clerk to the right, beleaguered, shoulders hunched, paper files all around him. Supervisor left in the doorways asking the question, looks like you've got all the data. What is the holdup? I gave you the request this morning. Where is the answer? And that's what we're going to try to ferret through. So I think I've always liked to conclude or observe that there are really three critical questions in most organizations when they start down these journeys of analytics and performance management methods like strategy map scorecards, profitability analysis, activity-based costing, and the like. They really are only answering the first question, which is what, but the next two are critical. The so what, which is what do we focus on, what does it mean, and the then what, which is if we are to make a change, drop a product line, add a customer, what have you, what is the impact, and that will get us when we'll talk about is the predictive view. So what I'm going to go through is first I'm going to try to clarify the confusion and lack of consensus about what is enterprise performance management and corporate performance management. They're synonymous. Next, I'll do similarly with the confusion and lack of consensus about what is business analytics and big data. Then importantly, I'm going to give some examples of business analytics throughout the entire organization, but the meat of the presentation is going to be the fourth bullet, which is really examples of analytics now being applied and embedded in the CFO function. I'd like to basically conclude by showing a costing stages of maturity model that was developed for IFAC, that's the International Federation of Accountants, which is like the United Nations of Accounting Institutes. They're like 180 members like the AICPA, IMA, and so forth, and then obviously we'll conclude with the summary. So let's talk about EPM. Oh, before we get going, I'd like to, this slide's got nothing to do with the topic, but I think it's provocative. What is the lifespan of big companies? Of the Forbes 100 that was created in 1917, how many do you think were on the list in 2006? Answer, only 18, and only 39 of the 100 have survived. Similarly, of the Standard & Poor's 500 that was created in 1957, how many do you think were on the list in 2006? Answer, only 74, 15%. I'm not sure what to conclude from this, but my sort of pet theory is when organizations are too successful or just successful, it just breeds adversity to taking risk. And risk-taking is really critical now, and that's, I think, the whole other side area of enterprise risk management, which is converging with enterprise performance management, is becoming more critical. So, confusion and lack of consensus about enterprise performance management. Is it human resources performance management? Well, if you Google it, performance management, most of the hits will be about HR and personnel, employee appraisal and so forth. But what we're talking about here is enterprise, the organization as a whole. Is it about scorecards, dashboards, KPIs, and measures? Yes, and we'll cover that, but that's just a subset of the enterprise performance management portfolio, if you want to think of it. Is it about alignment, strategic resource allocation? Yes, but that's, again, part of this bigger portfolio. Is it about process, productivity, quality improvement, like programs like Six Sigma and lean management? Yes, but that's business process management, and that is a subset of the larger umbrella of enterprise performance management. Or is it all the above? And I'm making the case, yes, it's a big umbrella. So the good news is this, though. Enterprise performance management is not a new methodology that employees now have to learn, but rather it is the integration of existing methodologies that people are already familiar with, like strategy maps, scorecards, dashboards, profitability analysis of customers, products, channels using activity-based costing principles, rolling financial forecasts, Six Sigma, Lean, and so forth. It's quite a stew. The problem is most organizations have been implementing these methods in isolation of each other or in a sequence, and you get a lot more power and synergy when you integrate them together, and even more so when you embed them with analytics of all flavors like regression or correlation or clustering analysis, but especially predictive analytics, because it's my observation that most executives are moving their style away from a command and control, after the fact reacting, to much more of an anticipatory planning where the product mix volume is coming at them and they are basically adjusting headcount or spend in accordance, or solving small problems before they become big ones. So the definition, which will be in the PowerPoints you get, is exactly what I think, read off. It's analytics is paced performance management, integration, multiple methodologies, each embedded with business analytics. But make no mistake, the real purpose is really to execute strategy and make better decisions. So let's now talk about business analytics. There's confusion and lack of consensus with it, too. Is business analytics a data warehouse? Is it data mining with query and reporting? Is it business intelligence with some sort of enhancements? Is it the technology of data governance, data management, data quality? Is it probability and statistics like regression and correlation analysis? And I know some of you are probably saying, gee, I just got through that course in college. I wanted to get a D and get out of there. But, you know, it's here, and you don't have to basically master it because some of the technologies are basically more designed for the casual user. Is it about forecasting, optimization equations? Is it about customer, stakeholder issues? You know, it's really all of the above. But let me try to clarify. First, a good quote from Jeannie Harris, of the co-author of Tom Davenport's initial book. Tom Davenport is kind of a thought leader competing on analytics. And her quote was this: 40% of important decisions are not based on facts, but rather on intuition, experience, and anecdotal evidence. I always like to say, when an organization is making decisions, do they know or do they think they know? And we need to get to much more fact-based information. There's many different definitions for business analytics, and you can go to Wikipedia, and Davenport's got some in his books. But what I've concluded is the key here is work backwards with the end in mind. Regardless how business analytics should be defined, there should be no debate or argument of what is the purpose of business analytics, and it's two things: better decisions and better actions. Business analytics' goal should really be to gain insights, solve problems, to make better and quicker decisions with more accurate and fact-based data, and to take actions. Now, what about how do the integration by unifying enterprise performance management and business analytics? Let's clarify. Business intelligence, which is BI, is really more reporting, and what it does is it consumes stored information, such as in a data warehouse. What analytics does is it produces new information from the stored information. And then what corporate performance or enterprise performance management does is it deploys that new information in the context of a purpose or a decision, such as the strategy maps, profitability analysis, which we'll talk about. It's not really about monitoring the dials on a dashboard, which is the reporting. It's about moving the dials. What are all of the actions, initiatives, decisions, and the like that one takes? I like to basically sort of position, here's the way to think about business analytics with this sort of generic question: which X is most likely to Y? For example, in retail merchandising, which product in a retail store chain can generate the most profit without carrying excess inventory, but also not having periods of stockouts? It's an optimization question. Customer profitability, which customer will generate the most